Okay, be honest with me for a second. Have you been crying over your phone screen lately?
Yeah.
Because I definitely have. And if you've been anywhere near the internet recently, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about.
I think we all know exactly who you're talking about.
Right. I mean, I am officially declaring myself the ultimate #1 super fan of a 4.4-pound Japanese macaque named Punch. I love this tiny monkey so much it actually hurts, and today I am going to explain exactly why I and millions of other people are so completely obsessed with him. Welcome to today's deep dive.
It is a phenomenal story.
It really is. We are taking a massive deep dive into the story of Punch. We're going to unpack the really complex biological reality of his whole situation and analyze why his journey has triggered this unprecedented global outpouring of empathy.
We have some excellent sources guiding us today, too.
Yes, absolutely. We're pulling from a huge stack of material. Primarily, we're using a really highly detailed Wikipedia timeline that covers his whole biography and the viral reception. And we're pairing that with a deeply analytical piece from the Times of India, which explores the sociological and psychological sides of his social struggles.
Which is crucial because the mission of this deep dive is to figure out how a tiny, abandoned primate captured the collective human heart. And, perhaps more importantly, what his struggle for acceptance reveals about our own social wiring.
Exactly, because it's not just a cute animal video, it's so much more than that.
What's fascinating here is that the global reaction extends far beyond the typical fleeting internet trend. You watch a video, you smile, you scroll past. We are looking at a sustained, deeply invested sociological phenomenon. But to truly understand why the public is so captivated, we have to kind of strip away the human emotional projections. We have to look hard at the incredibly complex, often very unforgiving social structures of macaque troops, because the biological stakes for Punch are absolute.
Life or death, basically.
His survival and psychological development hang in the balance of every single micro-interaction he has within his enclosure.
I have consumed literally every piece of media available on this little guy. I am the biggest fan. And I can tell you, understanding the biology only makes you root for him harder. I mean, you just want to protect him.
It's a very natural response.
So let's start at the absolute beginning and set the stage. We are talking about a male Japanese macaque. They're commonly known as snow monkeys, right?
Yes, snow monkeys.
And he was born on July 26, 2025 at the Ichikawa City Zoo in Chiba, Japan. Now, before we even get to the tragedy of his early life, I want to talk about his name because I love his name. It perfectly encapsulates the resilience he ends up showing.
It's a very fitting tribute.
It is. He was named Punch, honoring the legendary mangaka or manga artist known as Monkey Punch. He's the guy famous for creating the beloved series Lupin the Third.
A classic.
Right, and Lupin is all about this resourceful, scrappy underdog who always figures out a way out of an impossible situation. And right out of the gate, Baby Punch was handed literally the most impossible situation a baby monkey could face.
The primary source documents confirm that immediately after birth he was abandoned.
Just left there.
Yes. His biological mother simply lacked the interest to raise him.
And that breaks my heart. But it's also, I mean, it's biologically devastating, isn't it?
Extremely. That phrase, lacked the interest, might sound somewhat benign to a human ear. We might just think of a bad parent. But in the context of primate biology, it is a catastrophic starting condition.
Because they rely so heavily on their moms.
Exactly. To understand the gravity of that abandonment, we need to delve into the specific social architecture of Japanese macaques. They do not operate as a loose collection of individuals who just happen to live together. They exist within a strictly matrilineal society.
Okay, let's unpack this. When we say strictly matrilineal, how does that actually manifest in their daily lives? Because I think, as humans, we imagine animal hierarchies are based purely on who is the biggest or the strongest or who has the sharpest teeth.
It's a common misconception. Size and strength do play a role, particularly for adult males when they are competing for mating opportunities. But the foundational bedrock of macaque society is inherited rank.
Inherited from the mother.
Yes. A female macaque inherits a social rank immediately below her mother. And this rank dictates practically everything about her lived experience. It dictates her access to the best foraging areas, the warmest sleeping spots, and the most desirable grooming partners.
So the mom is basically giving them VIP access.
In a way, yes. The maternal line acts as a coalition. If a lower-ranking monkey threatens a juvenile, that juvenile's mother, its aunts, and its older sisters will aggressively close ranks to defend it.
They gang up to protect their own.
Exactly. So the mother is not just a source of milk. She is a physical shield, and a passport into the troops' complex political system.
Which means, wow. Okay, so without a mother, Punch wasn't just hungry. He was essentially socially invisible. He had zero rank and absolutely zero protection.
Precisely the opposite of protection, in fact. An infant without a mother to enforce its status is uniquely vulnerable to the aggression of higher-ranking individuals. They become targets.
That is terrifying.
Furthermore, the mother provides the essential social roadmap. Young macaques spend their first year meticulously observing their mothers to learn the incredibly nuanced language of macaque communication.
Like monkey manners.
Exactly. They learn lip smacking, presenting behaviors, vocalizations, and threat displays. They learn who they can approach safely and who they must absolutely avoid.
And Punch had none of that.
None. He was born into a highly structured society where breaking a rule can result in severe physical injury. But he was deprived of the only teacher who could show him those rules.
It is genuinely heartbreaking when you consider the physical reality of his situation. I mean, I am such a fan because I just picture how small he was. We are talking about a creature that weighed a mere 2 kilograms. That's about 4.4 pounds. And that was months later in February 2026.
Very small.
So as a newborn, in July 2025, he would have been incomprehensibly tiny. You see this microscopic, fuzzy little life form, entirely helpless, thrust into an environment where he has no advocate. The immediate response from anyone observing this, myself included, is an overwhelming instinct to protect him. I just wanted to jump through the screen and hold him.
And thankfully, the staff at Ichikawa City Zoo recognized the immediate biological emergency.
They saved his life.
They did. The sources indicate that by the very next day, July 27th, they intervened. 2 caretakers took on the monumental task of hand-raising him.
Hand-raising a wild monkey.
Yes, which involved artificially feeding him milk from a baby bottle around the clock. The intervention of the zoo staff was the only reason he survived those first 48 hours.
Because they need so much energy, right?
Correct. The physiological demands of a newborn macaque are intense. They require frequent, highly specialized caloric intake to fuel rapid brain and muscle development. The caretakers were essentially functioning as a life support system.
They were his whole world.
They were. However, this necessary intervention introduces a massive secondary complication.
Which is?
The risk of imprinting.
Ah, right. Because the more time he spends being nurtured by humans, the more he associates humans with safety and survival rather than his own species.
That is the core dilemma of captive animal husbandry. When a wild animal is hand-raised from day one, they risk internalizing the wrong behavioral models.
They think they're human.
Or they at least fail to understand they are macaques. The human caretakers, despite their best efforts and deep dedication, cannot teach Punch how to be a monkey. They cannot teach him the specific tension reduction behaviors required to navigate a troop.
Right, the lip smacking and all that. A human can't really do that convincingly for a monkey.
No, they cannot. The zoo staff would have been acutely aware of this ticking clock. Every single week, Punch spent safely in the arms of a human caretaker was a week he fell further behind in his critical period for social development.
I have so much respect for those 2 caretakers. The emotional toll of trying to keep this tiny creature alive, knowing you eventually have to push him into an enclosure with 60 wild animals, must have been staggering.
It is a profound responsibility.
And they knew they could provide the calories, but they couldn't provide the constant 24/7 physical contact that a baby macaque requires. In the wild, a newborn clings tightly to the fur on its mother's belly, right?
Yes, almost constantly for the first few weeks.
It needs that physical anchor to develop grip strength and just to feel secure as the mother moves through the canopy or the enclosure. Since the humans obviously couldn't carry him around all day, the zoo implemented a brilliant, albeit somewhat surreal, solution. They gave him a surrogate.
They did. And the specifics of this surrogate choice are highly revealing of the zoo's methodology.
I love this part so much.
They did not simply toss a random blanket into his enclosure. They selected a specific, mass-produced stuffed animal. An orangutan plushie from the Swedish furniture retailer IKEA, known as the Djungelskog.
And the internet immediately christened this plushie Aura Mama or Oran Mother. I have to admit, as a massive fan of Punch, the imagery of this tiny gray macaque dragging around a bright orange plush orangutan is one of the most endearing aspects of his entire story.
It is a striking visual.
It really is. I've seen the videos. He would drag it into a corner and curl his entire little body around it. But you mentioned the choice was revealing. Why that specific toy? Why the IKEA orangutan?
According to statements from zookeeper Kosi Shikano, the selection of the Djungelskog was tactical. Shikano noted that this particular plushie features relatively long, synthetic hair and distinct limbs.
Okay, so it has arms and legs he can grab.
Exactly. It provides several easy places for a baby monkey to grasp and hold on to. The zoo was actively attempting to replicate the tactile experience of clinging to an adult primate's fur.
So they were trying to give him the physical workout he needed, like building his hand muscles, alongside the emotional comfort.
The two are deeply intertwined in primate development. If we connect this to the bigger picture and look at the foundational psychological research of the mid-20th century, specifically Harry Harlow's work with rhesus macaques, we see the critical importance of what is called contact comfort.
That's the wire mother versus cloth mother experiment, right?
Yes. And while ethically controversial by today's standards, it established fundamental principles of attachment. Harlow demonstrated that infant macaques prioritize the soft, tactile comfort of a surrogate over a wire surrogate that merely provides food.
They would rather starve than be without something soft to hold.
They need that comfort to survive psychologically. The physical sensation of clinging to a soft, fur-like texture regulates the infant's nervous system.
It provides what psychologists call a secure base, right?
Correct. The concept of the secure base, pioneered by John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth in attachment theory, posits that a developing infant requires a reliable, comforting presence.
Somewhere safe to run back to.
Precisely. A base from which they can safely explore their environment and to which they can retreat when threatened. Oramama functioned as Punch's secure base.
Because he didn't have a real mom.
Exactly. Without a biological mother to retreat to, he projected his intense survival instinct onto the plushie. It allowed him to regulate his anxiety in an environment that lacked natural maternal buffering.
It is just a profound testament to the adaptability of the primate brain. He took an inanimate, neon orange object designed for human toddlers, and he literally mapped millions of years of evolutionary survival mechanisms onto it.
It is remarkable adaptability.
And Oramama was vital. She was everything to him, because she provided the psychological anchoring he desperately needed to face the absolute most terrifying phase of his young life. His introduction to Monkey Mountain.
The integration phase. This is where the biological reality becomes very harsh. On January 19, 2026, when Punch was approximately 6 months old, the zoo officials initiated the process of introducing him to the main enclosure.
Monkey Mountain.
Yes. And this is an incredibly delicate operation. The enclosure houses a troop of approximately 60 individuals.
Throwing a socially stunted 6-month-old infant into a dynamic, established society of 60 wild macaques sounds utterly terrifying.
It is inherently dangerous. A troop of 60 macaques represents a highly complex web of alliances, rivalries, and established dominance hierarchies.
It's basically a primate soap opera with really high stakes.
You could say that. Introducing a complete outsider, especially an infant who lacks the behavioral repertoire to signal submission properly, creates immediate instability.
Because they don't know who he is or where he belongs.
The troop does not view Punch as a helpless baby needing pity. They view him as an anomaly, a potential disruption, or simply an irrelevant non-entity because he carries no matrilineal rank.
And this is where the viral phenomenon truly ignited. The zoo began posting footage of Punch's integration attempts, and the internet, myself very much included, watched in real time as he struggled.
The footage was difficult for many to watch.
It was gut-wrenching. The video showed this tiny monkey, separated from his Oramama, cautiously trying to approach the other macaques. He would inch forward, clearly seeking some kind of connection, just wanting a friend or a mother figure.
Seeking social integration.
And the other monkeys would just swat him away, just smack. They would turn their backs on him. They treated him like an absolute nuisance. And then, oh man, then there was this specific incident that sent the internet into an absolute frenzy.
The dragging incident.
Yes, the video where an adult monkey aggressively grabbed Punch and literally dragged him away. When I saw that footage, my immediate reaction was intense anger. I felt so fiercely protective of him. I was like, who does this monkey think she is?
A very human reaction.
Yeah, I think a lot of people viewed that adult monkey as a bully targeting a defenseless victim.
That reaction is incredibly common, and it highlights a major challenge in human-animal observation. We have a powerful tendency toward anthropomorphism.
We project human emotions onto them.
We project human morality, human social norms, and human emotional motivations onto animal behavior. When a human sees an adult dragging an infant, our moral framework instantly categorizes it as bullying or abuse.
Right. It looks like a kid getting bullied on the playground.
However, to understand the reality of Monkey Mountain, We have to discard the human moral framework entirely. We have to analyze the behavior through the lens of macaque survival strategies.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to stop looking at it as a schoolyard dynamic. How did the zoo explain the dragging incident then? Because the public outcry was so loud, I remember they actually had to issue an official statement.
They did, and their clarification was vital for contextualizing the event. The zoo explained that the incident was not random malicious bullying.
It wasn't just a mean monkey.
No. Punch, in his desperate attempt to find social connection, had approached and attempted to communicate with another infant macaque in the troop. The adult who intervened and dragged him away was the mother of that specific infant.
Oh, so she wasn't attacking him for fun. She was acting defensively.
She was executing a standard maternal defense protocol.
Wow.
Think about it from her perspective. An unsocialized, unpredictable outsider monkey, one who did not belong to her matrilineage and who did not understand the proper submissive approach behaviors, was suddenly encroaching on her offspring.
He was the stranger getting too close to her baby.
Precisely. She neutralized the perceived threat by removing the anomaly. Punch had unknowingly violated a severe social boundary, and he violated it because he lacked the mother who would normally have taught him that boundary or buffered the interaction for him.
He literally didn't know the etiquette, and he suffered the consequences.
He was flying blind.
The zoo statement also pointed out that Punch was repeatedly receiving the cold shoulder from various members of the troop precisely because he was blindly trying to initiate contact without understanding the hierarchy.
He wasn't speaking their language.
Right. They were essentially reminding the public, hey, this is hard to watch, but this is the brutal reality of how a macaque learns to survive when they don't have a guide.
It is learning through trial and error. And in that environment, errors are met with immediate physical reprimands.
Oh, which is so tough to see.
It is, but the zoo staff must balance their desire to protect him with the absolute necessity that he learns these hard lessons. If they intervene every single time an adult swats him, he will never learn the submission behaviors required to integrate.
He'd just be a permanent outcast.
He would remain a permanent outsider, constantly requiring human protection, which is unsustainable for a wild animal.
Okay, so the zoo is explicitly telling the public that this harsh rejection is normal and necessary, yet the global audience could not look away. The emotional investment only deepened.
It amplified significantly.
Why did millions of humans suddenly care so deeply about a primate getting the cold shoulder? I mean, I know why I care because I love him. But on a macro scale, I think it transcends biology. I think we were watching psychological mirroring on a massive scale.
That is a very astute observation.
We watched Punch approach a group, get rejected, and retreat back to his plushie. And we saw our own deepest insecurities playing out on our screens.
The analytical commentary from various media outlets strongly supports that hypothesis. The public was not just reacting to a monkey, they were reacting to an avatar of isolation.
An avatar of isolation, that's exactly it.
Louis Villalobos, writing an op-ed for USA Today, articulated this phenomenon very clearly. He observed that Punch's struggle reminds us of the profound loneliness and sadness we have all experienced from loss or social rejection.
It hits so close to home.
It taps into the universal lingering anxiety that perhaps we are not enough to be accepted.
It is incredibly poignant. Villalobos hit on the exact nerve this story exposed. And Mary McNamara, writing for the LA Times, shared an anecdote that I think perfectly captures the zeitgeist of this entire movement.
Her daughter's text message.
Yes. She revealed that her daughter had texted their family group chat with the simple phrase, "I am Punch and he is me."
That statement really strips away the biological differences.
Completely.
It distills the connection down to pure empathy. McNamara expanded on this in her piece, arguing that everyone inherently understands the feeling of being small and bewildered, circling a social group, desperately seeking a way in.
We've all been there.
Everyone knows the sting of being rejected by those whose approval we crave. And we must also consider the recent global context. The pandemic undoubtedly exacerbated feelings of social isolation globally, leaving populations uniquely primed to project their need for connection onto a narrative of a struggling outcast.
Think about it. Haven't you ever walked into a new environment, like a new school, a new workplace, or a crowded room where everyone already seems to know each other, and felt exactly like Punch?
It's a universal human experience.
You feel small, you don't know the unspoken rules of the room, you are desperately looking for a friendly face, and you are absolutely terrified of making a misstep and being socially swatted away. Today, magazine highlighted how social media users were leaving comments like, We're all Punch's family now, and we're not okay.
He became a symbol,
He became the definitive symbol for modern social anxiety.
which perfectly sets the stage for the unprecedented viral explosion that occurred in February 2026. The convergence of a compelling visual narrative, the tiny monkey and his bright orange plushie, with its profound psychological mirroring, created a perfect storm of global engagement.
Let's track the timeline of this virality because the sheer scale of the real-world impact is staggering. It is mind-blowing. It really kicked into high gear following a February 5th online post by the Ichikawa City Zoo.
Post that detailed his full history.
Yes, they detailed his full backstory, the maternal abandonment, his reliance on the IKEA plushie, and the ongoing painful struggles he was facing on Monkey Mountain, and the internet immediately mobilized.
The response was instantaneous.
The hashtag #GanBearPunch, which roughly translates to hang in there punch, absolutely dominated platforms like X, Instagram, and Reddit.
And crucially, this engagement did not remain confined to digital spaces as mere slacktivism.
No, it bled into the real world fast.
It manifested in massive, tangible shifts in human behavior and economic activity. The Ichikawa City Zoo, which operates as a standard municipal facility, experienced a total logistical overload. Their visitor numbers for the month of February doubled compared to the previous year.
Doubled. That is insane for a municipal zoo in February. People were undertaking significant travel simply to witness him in person. The queues to enter the zoo reached unprecedented lengths.
It caused severe operational delays.
They actually had to issue formal public apologies because the lines were so long. You had thousands of people standing in the cold for hours, all hoping to catch a glimpse of a 4.4-pound monkey holding a stuffed orangutan.
The cultural penetration also crossed international borders and language barriers, reaching the highest levels of corporate and media recognition.
This is where it gets surreal.
On February 27th, Google integrated an interactive animation directly into their search engine.
Google.
Yes, users querying information about Punch were met with an animated monkey icon and a cascade of bright pink hearts falling across their screens.
When one of the largest technology companies on Earth alters its core product to celebrate a specific zoo animal, you know you are witnessing a massive cultural event.
It is highly unusual.
And the American mainstream media amplified it even further. Stephen Colbert dedicated a segment of his late-night television broadcast to the story. He specifically highlighted the $19.99 IKEA Jungle Skog plushie, humorously noting that it might bring people the sense of ease they are so desperately seeking in today's climate.
Which brings us to the fascinating corporate dynamic of this phenomenon.
The IKEA effect.
Exactly. IKEA experienced a massive surge in demand for the Jungle Skog model. The plushies began selling out globally, with significant inventory shortages reported across Japan, the United States, and South Korea.
IKEA realized exactly what was happening, and they leaned into the marketing momentum completely. They featured the orangutan plushie heavily in their social media updates and ad campaigns.
It was smart business.
But I will give them credit. They also recognized the emotional core of the story and participated in a really meaningful way. On February 17th, IKEA dispatched corporate representatives directly to the Ichikawa City Zoo.
To make a donation.
Yes, they donated 33 stuffed toys, ensuring Punch and the young human visitors had access to the comforting surrogates.
It created a powerful cultural feedback loop. Consumers purchased the plushie as a tangible way to feel connected to Punch's story.
Which drove further media coverage regarding the product shortages.
Which in turn drove more visitors to the zoo and fueled the online discourse even further.
The human desire to intervene and, fix the situation was overwhelming. And here's where we get into some of the most surreal data points of this entire saga.
The financial offers.
Yeah. Because the internet is vast and unpredictable, the viral fame of this monkey attracted substantial real-world financial offers from high-profile figures.
It is a very interesting sociological data point.
And I want to state very clearly right now that we are looking at this from a strictly sociological perspective. We are entirely impartial regarding the individuals involved. We are not taking any political sides or endorsing anyone's viewpoints. We are simply examining the facts as reported by the sources.
Strictly as examples of the viral frenzy.
Exactly. The Wikipedia timeline notes that controversial influencer Tristan Tate publicly offered $250,000 to buy out Punch.
$250,000.
And additionally, American activist Ryan Fournier offered $50,000 to adopt him.
These offers are incredibly illuminating data points regarding the nature of parasocial relationships in the digital age.
How so?
They illustrate the extreme length to which the human protective instinct can be pushed when stimulated by a viral narrative. The individuals making these offers felt such a profound, albeit one-sided bond with Punch that they believed deploying vast sums of human capital could somehow resolve a deeply complex biological and ecological issue.
It's the ultimate manifestation of the internet's mindset, right? If I throw enough money at the problem, I can save him.
Precisely, is the human instinct to control and fix.
But that brings us to the most sobering and ultimately the most inspiring reality of this entire deep dive. All the money in the global economy and every single IKEA plushie produced could not solve Punch's actual problem.
No, they could not.
Tristan Tate's $250,000 could not purchase a place in the macaque matrilineal hierarchy. Ryan Fournier's $50,000 could not bribe an adult female macaque into offering grooming services.
Nature does not accept cash.
Exactly. Punch needed authentic acceptance from his own species, and that was something he had to earn entirely on his own, through trial, error, and immense physical endurance.
Which leads us to the breakthrough phase of his integration. This is where Punch's individual resilience becomes the absolute focal point of the story.
This is why I love him.
Despite the constant rejection, the physical reprimands, and the intense isolation, he did not withdraw permanently. He utilized his plushie as a secure base to recover, yes, but he continuously re-entered the social arena.
He never gave up.
The head of the Ichikawa City Zoo, Takashi Yasunaga, characterized Punch's demeanor as very outgoing. Furthermore, the primary keepers described him as mentally strong, specifically noting his capacity to recover quickly after being aggressively scolded by the older macaques.
He possessed an internal drive that kept pushing him forward. He didn't just curl up with Ora Mama in the corner and give up on life. And because he kept trying, the massive, triumphant wins finally started happening.
The behavioral shifts were quite sudden.
The wins that had millions of people, including me, cheering at their screens. First, the zoo released footage of Punch finally being groomed by another monkey in the troop.
In the context of macaque society, the initiation of grooming behavior is a monumental milestone.
It's not just about picking off bugs, right?
No, not at all. Grooming is not merely about hygiene or removing parasites. It is the fundamental currency of their social economy. The physical act of grooming stimulates the release of endorphins, lowers heart rates, and reduces social tension.
That's how they bond.
Exactly. It is how macaques build coalitions, resolve conflicts, and establish trust. When another monkey invests their time and makes themselves vulnerable to groom Punch, it signals a definitive shift.
They accepted him.
They have recognized him as a participant in the social fabric rather than an anomalous outsider.
It means he was finally seen. He wasn't invisible anymore. And the progress accelerated so fast from there. Following the grooming milestone, another incredible video emerged showing a juvenile monkey actively following Punch around the enclosure.
Effectively acting as his personal bodyguard.
Yes, a bodyguard.
This demonstrates a massive leap in his social standing and security. Having a protector means he has successfully forged a reliable connection. He's no longer an isolated target. He is a member of the troop deemed worthy of defense.
That is so huge for him.
It is critical, because this newfound security lowers his baseline anxiety, allowing him to allocate cognitive and physical energy toward normal developmental behaviors.
The exact behaviors you expect from a healthy, happy baby monkey. By February 23rd, the zoo was able to report a series of massive victories. Punch was actively engaging in play with other juvenile macaques.
Play is essential.
Play is so important. It's how they practice social skills and physical coordination. But even more importantly than that, the zoo confirmed he was eating independently.
Navigating the feeding hierarchy.
Yes, navigating it without requiring any intervention or protection from his human caretakers.
He was achieving functional independence within the troop. He was reading the social cues, understanding when to approach food, and successfully interacting with his peers.
So what does this all mean? Early on in the integration process, the zoo asked the public not to merely feel sorry for Punch, but to actively cheer for his efforts. And I think that is the most profound takeaway from this entire deep dive.
It shifts the narrative from victimhood to agency.
Exactly. Punch did not just passively endure his trauma. He didn't just sit there and take it. He actively engaged with a hostile environment and worked relentlessly to overcome his disadvantages.
It is a remarkable narrative of biological adaptation and psychological resilience. However, it is important to note that Punch's path to full integration is an ongoing process.
It's not a fairy tale ending just yet.
No, he has not mastered every nuance of adult macaque politics. The sources confirm that he still occasionally retreats to Oramama for comfort after stressful interactions, and he is still learning the complex rhythms of life on Monkey Mountain.
But the core thing has changed.
Yes, the fundamental paradigm has shifted. He is no longer alone.
He figured out how to belong. And I truly believe we can all draw immense inspiration from this 4.4-pound snow monkey I know I have. The next time you find yourself in a situation where you feel entirely out of your depth, the next time you feel rejected, isolated, or like you are standing on the outside looking in, I want you to remember Punch.
A powerful metaphor.
Remember the tiny animal who was swatted away time and time again, but who possessed the sheer mental fortitude to keep approaching, keep trying, and keep learning until he carved out his own place in the world. Following his journey makes you deeply appreciate the quiet comfort of your own home and the vital importance of the communities we build. It makes you want to reach out and hug the people you love just a little bit tighter.
The human response to his journey is a testament to the universal value we place on belonging. And as we conclude our analysis of the sources today, his story leaves us with a fascinating, unexplored conceptual question regarding the nature of social bonds and adaptation.
Oh.
This raises an important question. If a mass-produced IKEA plushie, combined with the ensuing global human internet fame, can successfully serve as a developmental bridge, effectively substituting for millions of years of specialized primate maternal evolution, what does that suggest about the sheer radical adaptability of social creatures?
That is wild to think about.
Furthermore, when Punch is fully grown, when he is a mature, robust male macaque navigating the complex upper echelons of the troop hierarchy, will Oramama eventually become a forgotten artifact of his traumatic infancy? Or will he carry that bright orange plushie with him as a permanent defining fixture of his adult identity?
Wow. The mental image of a massive, dominant adult snow monkey fiercely guarding his childhood IKEA orangutan is almost too incredible to comprehend. I know I will be watching closely to find out. I will be checking those zoo updates every single day.
It will be fascinating to observe.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the extraordinary world of Punch the monkey. Keep trying, keep building your community, and keep hanging in there, just like Punch. We will catch you next time.